Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, out on another walk, and this is part 3 of my escape to the Downs. And I'm continuing this walk on the day that I did the previous video where part 2 of Escape to the Downs. I was sitting on a little park bench there, and before I head back home I thought it's worth just going on a little jaunt up one of these little tracks that I found here. Excuse me wearing this silly hat on a day like this. It is actually quite warm and quite muggy, and it was forecast to rain, but it hasn't rained, and I'm in my wet weather gear wandering around over the escarpments of the Downs. But there is a bridle path here which I have walked on before. It hasn't been a long time actually, and if you continue up this way you'd get to Sisbury Ring. I'm down in West Sussex near Sompting and Lancing. This is looking east. Down there some farm buildings and some farms and this wonderful amazing landscape. I'm going to take my hat off. It's not raining. I'm quite warm in all this clobber. Bit of a mistake really. But then I was looking at the Met Office website and I thought, well, I am going to get out, come rain or shine, try and keep these videos going, keep people amused and entertained as best I can. And I know that there are people who can't get out, and so this is a way of taking them vicariously with me on my walks. So over this ridge, I know, and a little way, is Sisbury Ring. This land here, ancient land, and there's obviously no buildings on it. It's ancient land as far as the peoples here, with our hill forts, tumuli, burial mounds, and all of that scattered about. And it's wonderful to be able to walk in their footsteps, not knowing who they were, the stories that they had, but we'll know from simple humanity that these people would have loved, would have had children, obviously they had children, and they would have suffered many indignancies. They would have suffered the elements, of course, the bouts of possible plague, possible virus like what we're going through now. They would have had all sorts of ailments which they would have had to have coped with, and presumably they found natural remedies that very often we laugh at now, but they didn't have the high-tech industries, of course, that we have, but they survived, and they built amazing earthworks on the landscape that we can only marvel at now. And sometimes when you walk and you think about these things, as I often do, I'm aware of the organisation that must have gone into making these things. These great ditches and the high mounds with the primitive tools could not have been an easy thing to organise. We just wouldn't be able to do it so easily now. That always impresses me. The early man, and then the Anglo-Saxons, when they settled here after the Romans, would have had a system. This is looking back down towards Shoreham, by the way, behind me. They would have had a system of what they call the open fields. And these open fields, I mean, every schoolboy, I was going to say every schoolboy knows, but I don't know that every schoolboy these days knows about these things. They may be taught them very briefly, but I'm not sure they're all taught in the same way that they were taught in perhaps the 30s and 40s. But these open fields, there was the 2-field system and then later the 3-field system. The 2-field system, the ancient peoples realised very soon that there was only so many seasons that you could grow your corn, your wheat, your barley, whatever meagre crops that they could grow. And so they knew that they would have to rest the soil so it would come back to life. They may not have appreciated what the fertilizer was doing until they started to put sheep down, but I think they were starting to put sheep in and cattle and what have you. But it was mainly grass, letting it go to grass and letting the grass die and re-nurture the soil that would do it. So they'd have one field that would be growing the crops, then they would alternate between the two. Soon one can imagine that they realized that actually if they had a 3-field system, they could have 2 crops growing, one spring crop and one a winter crop, and the other field rested, and then they could rotate this round, and obviously they could start to nurture the land with sheep, for sheep were an incredible commodity, not just for its meat. That was really the minor part of them. It was for their fertilization and the wool that would keep them warm. Not really getting very far, but I'm just extending the walk that I did before, so I just want to get over this ridge. These little walks are sort of pretty much in real time, so I hope you don't mind me just waffling bits and pieces. In the lockdown, you see, I've been spending a bit of time reading, and it's fascinating. We're told that the ancients had a strip of land, you know, the Anglo-Saxons would have had a strip of land that was theirs, and they would each have a different strip depending on the quality of the land, and they were all working for the community. Well, that's sort of the crux of it, but it's a lot more detailed than that archaeologists and thinkers, I suppose, have worked out. The evidence in the land shows that now this is difficult to explain. I'm not going to try and get into this in any shape or form here, but the evidence in the land shows in some areas how the landscape was formed by the farming, by the ridge and furrow system. And there were these areas called lands, little areas as part of the land, and these might be tilled by one person. And a strip is not necessarily a strip that we think of as in one continuous length. A strip, the word could possibly have meant these areas that they are calling lands. I can't really explain too much about that in this video, because we're running out of time. Let's have a look through here. The sheep are sitting down. They obviously know that the rain is coming, and maybe that's my cue to head back. In the very distance I can hear a chainsaw. People are still out there working on the land, and why wouldn't you be? You'd be silly not to be working on the land. You are isolated, and farmers have got to do what they've got to do. And I'm hoping also that there are woodmen cutting wood for wood burners and fires, because I have an Essie which heats my house and I cook off, and I'm soon going to need another delivery of wood, so I'm hoping the lockdown hasn't prevented any of that. It is just beautiful to stand sometimes, even though our exercise was supposed to keep going, but just to stand for a few minutes and listen to the different birds, even if one can't identify them, and the rooks and the occasional crow, and every now and again a seagull. It is lovely. There's much that I want to explore, there's much that I want to learn, and without a doubt there is much that I want to share with you, my lovely viewer. So I will carry on the good work. Anyway, thank you so much for watching if you have, and some of these walks are just very, very simplistic walks, but in this time, as I explained before, one can't go to town too easily, and it is really just a question of bringing them to you as often as I can. And I certainly recommend, if you are able to get out into a wilderness like this, you know, there's nobody about, then do it. As much as some people in the comments I notice say, Richard, don't go out, but it's perfectly safe. Thank you for watching, and I'll be out and about again. Take care, and bye for now. Bye bye.